Good morning. I thought I would bring you along to the first part of my day and we can chat while I do that. Maybe I can stare at my crazy hair. Let's go say hi to the cats. Morning. Oh my goodness. There's actually 6 of them. Okay, let's go have breakfast. Now that they're settled, I always do smoothie in the morning. It's pretty good. Hey guys, it's gonna be live. Let's get fancy today. This is part of the life of a pet sitter. I know there's a lot of cats this time. I have never watched 6 cats before. I wasn't sure what to expect, but they're actually pretty easy. They all are sort of indoor, outdoor. They go out to the backyard. They don't require a whole lot. They do require a lot of attention sometimes, and sometimes it's 3 of them all at once, or more. I'm just like, ah. One of the hard parts is that every new place, I have a different morning routine. So every so often I have to change it up. Because like here, they had a blender. And so like I've been getting really into making a morning smoothie, and it's easiest on my digestive system. And then I go off into the gym and stuff. But I haven't had a gym membership in a long time. This one was in walking distance from the house, which I'll take you there in a moment. But yeah, like everybody's pets are a little bit different. So like when I'm watching a dog, then we have to go out first thing as well, typically. So, and in the last, number of months, I've been switching off between watching a dog, watching cats, watching a dog with cats. It's worked out like really well because I think it's nice to have a break from one thing and to go back and experience the other, right? So like with dogs, it's a little more active in that you have to go outside even if you're feeling tired. And then what's nice about cats is like you have a little more restful experience. I don't have to go outside right away if I don't want to. But in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be watching a dog for 1 week, which is interesting because in the last 8 months or so, I've been doing really long pet sits. The first one was almost 3 months, and then it was 6 weeks, and then it was 2 weeks, and then it was 6 weeks again, I think. And then this one was 6 weeks or more. I don't know. Anyways, it was a lot. It's been a lot of weeks. Then I have one for 1 week, and then I'm changing it up, and I'm going to, instead of doing pet sitting for a couple of weeks, I'm going to do a volunteer exchange through HelpX. So, okay, let me touch on like how these are some tips for traveling without having to spend a ton of money, right? Is that pet sitting is one. It's an exchange, so I use trusted house sitters, and it's not a business, right? Like you don't make money doing it, but you don't have to pay for housing, and you also get to hang out with cool animals. And it's just, that's the exchange, really. Someone needs to go away for a while, and they just want someone to watch their house and their pets, and then usually there's plants involved. And for a time I was telling people that, I don't know, I'm not the best with plants, but I think I've turned a corner because these plants have survived. There's a lot of them here. I'm proud of myself. Um, and then, yeah, and I think too about trusted house sitters is that, especially because I tend to look for really long sits, that, it narrows down the ones that I find, right? There's not usually a ton of them, but there's usually enough. And I've literally gone back to back to back for months and months now, like literally to the day I will be switching over. It's been crazy how well this has worked out. And, but, so I was saying that because of doing the long sits, I tend to find these places I would have never thought to come to, you know? Like I went to Scarborough. Scarborough is like a coastal town, sort of halfway up England. And I was watching a dog over there. And I don't think I would have ever thought to go there, but it actually was really interesting. I mean, it was kind of shit weather. So partly I've been just trying to like wait out the winter so I could see the spring, which has finally come. It was kind of annoying weather, but some of the days were really nice. And then I got to go out and walk along the coast with the dog. And yeah, it was nice. A little respite, a little respite. And also, when I first got back to England, I was watching a dog in Aylesbury, and I wouldn't have ever thought to go to Aylesbury either. It's so beautiful. It's got incredible fields everywhere. And it was just very peaceful. And actually, I think I was technically slightly outside of Aylesbury. So maybe Aylesbury, the town, is a little more like an actual town. But but I was out a little bit in the country, and it was just very, very peaceful. So there's so much about England that's very peaceful, especially when you get outside of the big cities. And right now I'm outside of another big city, but I won't say exactly where yet until I'm gone. But then after this, I will be volunteering. And what was really cool about this volunteer opportunity is it's a couple weeks and it's not cleaning toilets at a hostel, which I thought I would end up finding. It's actually this woman who has a business and she wants help with creating content and like mapping out brainstorming some ideas for her online events and courses and stuff. I'm like, oh, I love all of that. I used to do that for fun with just people, my friends and family, and just be like, yes, let's get into the ideas. I love being an idea person. And I have creativity. I would love to pour into this. And she sounds cool, and she does some stuff with like your connection to the earth, which I think is fascinating. So I was like, wow, how did I find this? And she reached out to me because this is one of those serendipitous moments, right? Hi. Morning. Okay. Hi. This is Julia. I had the thought to go onto HelpX and to update my profile because I wanted to say something about how I'm looking for opportunities to exercise my facilitation muscle so that I can, because I'm developing workshops and things, and now I'm creating a new website, and I want opportunities to do that, right? At retreats, at festivals, at things like that. And so where I'm incorporating elements of improv and play and mindfulness and help people to really get out of their head and into their bodies, and then connecting with other people from a more authentic, free, open place, Anyways, you'll hear more about that. But I ended up updating my HelpX, and she reached out to me. What was funny is that last year when I was in England, she also reached out to me, but it's like it wasn't the time, and also it was about something slightly different. And it was crazy that this time was kind of exactly when I needed the next idea of where I was going. And it's something that's so interesting to me that I think it's almost like playing, like, oh, let's play with some creative ideas, let's play with brainstorming. So I'm very excited about that. Cheers. Oh, and this is another one. Okay, the hair has been fixed for the most part. Let's go to the gym. So yeah, today I was pondering sharing a bit about my pronouns and what has led me to using they them pronouns or they she. And I feel like everybody's journey is going to be different with how they understand themselves. You got to hear part of my story in the From Purity Culture to Pleasure video, which I invite you to watch. I think I just kind of touched on briefly my experience of my gender. I just wanted to talk a little more about that today. Because now, especially as I go by Lux, which is my chosen name, and how that to me really signifies and helps me really embody more of who I want to be in the world, without like kind of the baggage of my given name, though I still love my given name and it's still a part of me. But like as Lux, it's something that I feel helps to really express more of the sense within me of being expansive in how I am in the world and who I am. I remember back in the day, a number of years ago, many years ago, I was becoming more and more exposed to the queer community and trans folks and folks that would actually use they them pronouns. I remember even initially it did sort of spark a little interest in me, and I remember at one point I was sitting across from someone and I told them, I feel like I could use they them pronouns. It feels like it would feel easy, but then I don't know if I'm very androgynous or whatever, right? At the time, I had very long hair, very femme presenting, and I had that stereotype in my mind that being non-binary or gender queer, gender expansive in any way, especially if you're moving away from identifying strictly as a woman, and then everything that means around how you're supposed to be presenting in the world, meant that then you have to go and find this like middle ground between a feminine presentation or a masculine one, and then it's just supposed to be this like non-thing or this androgynous way of being. And I thought you kind of had to have that to be able to use those pronouns. And what I love is that a lot of folks are really challenging that stereotype of non-binary, that it has to, because even in the word itself, it's still centering the idea of binary, male, female, man, woman, femme, masc. It's still centering this idea of binary to say non-binary, and it kind of creates this idea that you have to be neither, and that's part of what that identity must present as. And so I really appreciate the folks who are maybe really femme presenting and they're like, no, my pronouns are they, them, or mass presenting, no, my pronouns, or they use different pronouns, or some folks use all the pronouns. And it's really very quite individual and unique to that own person's experience. So it's really important to ask and not assume. But for me, I had to sort of find folks who were challenging that stereotype for me to be like, oh, so it occurred to me that you didn't have to fall into just like another box of things. And I think that's something that I have really disliked, being sort of pigeonholed as something or being made to fit inside of a predetermined box, when I want to be much more expansive. I want to explore who I am. I want to maybe play with the boxes if I want to, but then not feel restricted to them solely. There was an article by Lee, well, now I'm going to forget. There was an article that I read by someone who I really admire in her philosophical exploration of a lot of things I find interesting. But it was essentially challenging that idea of binary, non-binary, and what you had to be to understand yourself as non-binary, and even sort of questioning the language that we use around it, right? Because it still centers the binary. So what other possibilities are there? I don't know. That's why I tend to actually identify more as like gender queer. I like the term queer in a lot of ways because it has a way of staying kind of undefined, and that it is what that person means it for themselves. Less of some sort of like socially decided framework around it. It is queer. It is this thing that's kind of beyond what one might expect, or playing with challenging different aspects of social norms and social constructs, right? So, yeah. So I kind of feel that for me too, in my sense of gender, I feel sometimes a bit of fluidity. I think I when I started using they pronouns, I was using she, they, right? So I was kind of like testing my toe, testing the water, putting my toe in the water, testing my toe. That's what happens when the mind muddles it up. But and so I was like, okay, I do want that. Also, I want to say too that it wasn't just something that I sat there and thought about. Was like, yes, I want to do this. My best friend in the States was also using they them pronouns, and they'd me a few times on accident, and I felt really great about it. I was like, wait, say it again. I like that. And it felt exciting. It felt really nice in my body to have someone use they pronouns for me. And it was especially after I shaved my head. And there's a lot of sort of transformation happening around that time as well. And I mean, maybe I could share a little bit about that too. I decided to shave my head after the 2024 election. It wasn't just about that, but I remember I was really upset and just feeling a lot of energy. I had also gone through my mom's death, and so it had been a number of months since then, and I had done all the things I needed to do for that, and I got back home, and then a couple months after that, there was the election and things, and I was like, So it just a lot had happened that year, and it was a vision that came to me. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just like thinking that something like, I got this energy, and then suddenly in my mind's eye, I saw myself with a shaved head. It was very clear. I was like, whoa, that looks cool. And I just like felt a call basically to do it. And so I thought about it for a little bit of time, and then I can be kind of impatient when I want to change my hair. So I've done a lot of like cutting my own hair. And I was looking around to see if like who had appointments and stuff. And then I just realized, I could just go get some clippers at the Walmart and do this today. So I went out and I got the clippers. And then I also wanted it to be an experience of almost like a ritual. I wanted it to be like a ritual of releasing. And so I had felt a little anxiety, and it was cool because I got back home and my housemate's girlfriend, person who was there, I told her about it. She was like, do it. Yeah. Like, yeah. Thanks for the encouragement. And so I went up to my bathroom and I wanted to do it very intentionally, like look myself in the eye and like watch it happen. Let it be a process. And so then I started shaving it off, and I was like, wow, look at this. I'm not gonna just kind of do it while being distracted or just trying to like get through an experience because I don't know what's gonna happen. No, I want to be fully present in this moment and really receive that feeling of right before I start shaving off the long hair that I had, and this feeling of doing something really bold. So then I shaved all off, and I was like, wow, I actually look pretty nice. I like this. And not that I'd never had short hair. I have had short hair before, so I think I knew that. But I had never actually shaved it down to like really, really short. And I was like, oh, wow, I feel like a badass now. And then after that, I kind of surprised my friend. I was like, hey, look what I did. And then I think it was a little bit after that where, was it then? Was it before my hair? I don't know. Around that time sometime is when I heard them say to me, or like reference me as they, and I really liked it. And so then I think that was part of me stepping into it, but not even from a sense that I have to be androgynous. Because actually that wasn't even about that. Like shaving my head wasn't about using they pronouns or being about non-binary. It was about releasing. And so maybe I was releasing more of just constructs that didn't need to be here, more of my willingness to step more boldly out into the world. And about the hair too, because I've heard people say that your hair can hold memories and things. And after I shaved it off, I put it in this bag, and when I looked down, I was almost like I was staring into my own eyes of the previous version of me. I swear, it was in my mind's eye, it was just very clear. I was like, whoa, I'm looking at my old self. And then later that night, I took some of it out and burned some of it under the full moon. And that was the whole thing. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was somewhat full moon. And I just, just let it be a whole moment. I let myself have a whole moment of release. Because it wasn't just about coming more into myself. It wasn't just about things happening in the country. A lot of it was about what just happened with my mom. And a lot of the pain that I experienced. And how it transformed me within that fire to somebody who was stronger and more bold and more assertive and me. And so I was releasing the energy from that year and probably a number of years prior as well. It's very powerful. But to come back to the pronouns, like especially with that, right? There was an element of, okay, I've taken away something that makes people automatically think that maybe I would be she, right? I like that there's a bit of a question now. And so then I think later on, maybe it was since traveling and being out in the world, I had wondered to myself if I would feel more shy about presenting more obviously queer in the world, or what I would feel about it. Also because I wondered if I wasn't around my friend who was very solid in their they themness, would I go kind of just revert back to just wanting to feel comfortable as she. And what was really interesting is like as I was traveling, I found myself wanting more to be gender queer, even apart from being in a community that was helping me feel comfortable with that. I was just like, actually, now that I'm spending time with myself alone and out in the world, like apart from any community, I feel even more this sense of, this is who I am. And not because I see someone I admire and I want to be like them. No, this is who I am, myself. I really feel that. And so that's kind of when I switched it around to they, she. I think also because I wanted, sometimes when people write them in a certain order, it can mean an order of preference. Not all the time. Sometimes people are just very, whichever you like, they don't really care. I think I did that to put some kind of presentation around that. Often I really prefer they, them. I don't want people to just forget that just because I'm willing to be she, I'm willing to like receive that. But also sometimes there's a little bit of fluidity for me. Like sometimes I do feel more like she fits on certain days, but then I think probably the majority of the time I really like they, them. I don't know. I like both, but I want they, them to be really honored and considered and used, as well. So that's kind of my experience with this. And I really don't feel any draw for he, him pronouns. I don't feel that. I feel solid in, I love that I was socialized as a woman. I love being a part of history of women in the world. And I love that I get to choose and really honor like the expansiveness of me personally. That I can be everything I want to be and everything I am in the world. But yeah, that's where I'm at now. I know everything's an evolving journey, But I feel really nice about this. You know, it feels very settled in a way. And I feel more comfortable even in my own self, because there's also a part of me too that feels that this really honors how I have felt in my own body too, because there's an element where even prior to this, like even years and years, decades ago, I being called a woman always felt weird. Like I never used that term for myself. I actually have used person for ever. Someone say that about me. I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, obviously, but like, well, not obviously, clearly. But it always just felt a little bit like off. And so this feels like a relief. It feels more true, right? Yeah. So, yeah. Anyways, yeah. That is my experience thus far. And it will continue on into the future as things unfold. I'd love to hear if anything about today, my little half vlog, half share, resonate with you. And yeah, my name is Lex. Welcome to my channel. And join me here for fun things. I'll see you here again very soon.